Welcome back to Gale Force Wins Season 2.
The Gale Force Wins podcast is proudly sponsored by Newfound Marketing, a digital marketing agency located in St. John's, Newfoundland. Visit our website at newfoundmarketing.ca to find out how we can help your business grow. Newfound Marketing, a complement to your marketing team.
Well, welcome to another edition of Gale Force Wins, and it's certainly exciting to be in conversation with folks from Happy Valley-Goose Bay. And Jerry and I have been trying to get up in Goose Bay for a very long time, so we're happy to be in these conversations now. Jerry, I'm Alan Dale, and this is my good buddy from the East End of St. John's, Jerry Carew. How are you, Jerry?
Oh, Alan, I'm doing well. I can't wait to get to talk to TJ. I do have some experience, TJ, in Labrador. The very first video project that I ever did when I graduated from university was an iceberg impact experiment for Sea Corps. And we had to go from, we went across from Lewisport into Cartwright. Then we took an open boat into Pax Harbour, Labrador. And when they call it the big land, it certainly is. Anyone who hasn't been in Labrador, that was an incredible excursion for me. So I look forward to hearing about your story and your journey.
Well, that's great, Jerry. TJ, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is TJ Gear. I've been born and raised in Happy Valley-Goose Bay, Newfoundland, Labrador. And currently I'm the owner and operator of Gears Gains Fitness Center, and I'm also a competitive powerlifter.
TJ, tell us a little bit about exactly where you grew up and how you grew up. What were some of the big influencers for you?
So I grew up in Goose Bay in Labrador. It's a small town, as you may know. And growing up, I was into a lot of different sports. So I played whatever came along, and hockey was a big one for me. You played all growing up. I still play to this day. And when I hit the age of around 15, I started to work out up at the base gym. And ever since, I've barely missed any amount of time in the gym, and it's always been a passion of mine. And by going through that, I've noticed that I was a bit stronger than average. So that really pushed me towards powerlifting, and seeing the general progression in strength has always been really good to see and motivating to me.
TJ, the base gym, the base, in fact, in Goose Bay is a big part of the community. Tell me a little bit about the base gym. Would you be interacting with a lot of people from other countries in there?
We used to, yeah. Back when I first started going, there was definitely a large variety of different nationalities that used to train there. I know there was times where, I guess, with different militaries would be in town, that you'd see an abundance of different people from all over the world.
Pretty good setup up there at the base gym?
Yeah, there used to be a pretty good setup. When I haven't trained there in a few years now, so I haven't seen it lately, but I know it was definitely a really good spot to train back when I used to go.
And talk to me a little bit about Goose Bay. Jerry and I have touched down in Goose Bay, spent a tiny bit of time in there, but don't really understand the community. And everybody that we talk to about Goose Bay, there's something special up there. People love it in Goose Bay. They love the connection to their community, and they're like, tell me a little bit about Goose Bay.
Yeah, Goose Bay was a good spot to grow up. It's a small population, and it's very spread out, but you definitely know a lot of people around town. And outdoors activities were a great thing to be able to do to stay active growing up. And yeah, there's always a lot of great people that you meet, and especially in the different environments that I grew up in, involved in sports and the outdoors. I always enjoyed meeting different people and growing up here.
And a pretty vibrant international community up there in the last few years as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
I'm not really sure how to answer that one. It's kind of
Yeah, and I know that there's been a big Filipino population in Goose Bay over the last number of years. Is that right?
Yeah, it's been steadily growing throughout the years. We actually have a Filipino worker at the gym right now, and they're definitely great people and hardworking and good to meet.
Yeah, and it's funny how that community has flourished in Goose Bay, because it's about as far removed from the Philippines as you can imagine, yet they've come up and they set up, and the food and the cultures all come with them.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say it's a little bit of an environmental shock coming to the cold compared to the warmth, but they definitely have been doing well up here.
But when you're surrounded by, friends and family and an inviting community, it really doesn't matter. The weather doesn't really matter that much, does it?
No, you learn, you adapt for sure.
Now, tell me about the hockey league up there in Goose Bay when you were young. How was that? Was it a pretty vibrant hockey community?
Yep, we went through minor hockey system growing up. So we started off in novice and went all the way through midget. And there was always the same core people, and there would be new people in and out. And you make a lot of friends along the way. There was a big camaraderie among all the players, and you get to go on different trips together and stuff. And you definitely grew up like a brotherhood.
Tell me about some of the trips you were playing in minor hockey. You would have had to go off away from Goose Bay, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, mostly through Labrador and on the island for the most part. Every Easter there would be a Easter tournament somewhere in the province, and we'd all travel as our all-star team together. Yeah.
And was it a pretty competitive team, DJ?
Yeah, it definitely was a competitive tournament. There's lots of what do I say? There's lots of, high levels of competition throughout the years. Like you play into different leagues, depending on how strong you were and the past tournaments you won. So some years were very competitive.
TJ, you talked a little bit about when you were in the gym, you realized that you were a little bit stronger than average. Tell me about that revelation.
Strength progression seemed to come natural to me. So every time I go in, I'd be lifting heavier. And sometimes I'd go in there and see myself lifting the same weights that the people that were much older than me were lifting. So I'd always go in and try to improve. And it never seemed to fail. Every time I went in, it would progress. Now, it's not always the same now where I'm older and getting close to my genetic potential, I guess you would say. It comes a little slower, but I still make progress every time I go in.
Jerry, I'm sorry, I cut you off there, buddy.
Well, I just wanted to say back to the hockey, TJ. I used to figure skate, and then I decided that was no good for me as a young boy, so I moved into hockey. So I can skate like the wind, but I don't have a bloody clue what to do with the puck when I get it. That's my claim to fame in hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a few people around town that had similar journeys, but I think they grew up with both of it side by side, and they were always definitely the best skaters in the league.
I got a question, too, around the minor hockey. I coached minor hockey for my boys for 10 years, and, traveling and doing things took a little bit of effort from all the families to raise money. Just give us some perspective what it was like for you to travel to the island and, what that meant in terms of, I guess, the effort that it required on the part of fundraising and what it meant for you to travel,
Yeah, it was definitely something we always looked forward to because we didn't really get to go to the island often. But we would every year for this tournament, as long as it was hosted down there. We've hosted a couple as well. And I didn't know much about the dollar figures back when I played, but I know from now fundraising for powerlifting and stuff that it definitely takes a substantial amount of money to go down there. And we put in a lot of efforts back playing hockey. We bagged groceries, sold chocolates, and it was definitely the whole hockey season. We always had fundraising on our mind, and we did a bunch of different things to raise money for the team to go down.
It's amazing, Alan. People don't realize how big Newfoundland and Labrador is. But when you have to send a hockey team to Labrador or a team from Labrador has to come to the island, that is a huge amount of effort to do,
Yeah. And back when I did play minor hockey, there was no road to the South Coast at the time. So it was always by plane regardless.
The whole team by plane?
Yeah.
That must have been exciting. Exciting.
Yeah, it was pretty fun as a group going down on basically the whole team taking up a plane and touching down somewhere in the province.
You must have felt like you were in the NHL first time you did that.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
TJ, I always struggled trying to keep the kids under control in the hotels. I can't even imagine what it was like to have a whole team on a plane.
Oh, I know.
I never did that.
Yeah, the planes and the hotels got a little rowdy at times for sure.
Mini sticks cause problems with the gyprock in hotels. That's what we found.
Yeah, I still miss doing that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
TJ, what were some of the big influencers for you when you were growing up as a young person in Goose Bay?
I always look towards different people in the same areas as me. Like, I know my father always promoted me going to hockey and always coached us and stuff. So he definitely had a big influence on the path that I took. He was always supportive of whatever we did, both my parents. But like, these were some of the things that they were interested in and helped guide us towards, and that really led to us adapting and like achieving a lot in the sport.
Brothers and sisters, TJ?
Yeah, I have one brother and one sister. Me and my brother both played hockey together a lot. Even though we're 2 years apart, we were in the same league every now and then.
Does he have the same strength ability as you?
He does. He doesn't actually powerlift with me anymore, but he definitely has the potential to probably be stronger than me. But my sister actually just started, so she's into it. And she's also strong. I think it must be in the genetics.
It must be in the for sure. So you go through the whole minor hockey system. Obviously, it sounds like it was a big part of your life. Anything else there? School? Anything about school that intrigued you, that inspired you when you were a young person?
So school was always something that I also excelled at pretty well throughout high school. And I ended up going to university in Fredericton and getting a degree in electrical engineering. So that kind of carved out my career path at first until I opened the gym. So the type of like technology and electronics and all that always intrigued me. And that's why I took the path of electrical engineering.
Okay, so electrical engineering is not an easy program at UNB. Tell me about that experience for you.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't an easy program, but in high school, everything did come pretty easy to me. So I went to university. I was a little more ill-prepared to excel as well as I did. I wasn't as good as note-taking and stuff. So it was something that I had to adapt to, since everything would just kind of click in high school, and then the work definitely got a lot harder in university. But I got through the program pretty well, and yeah, it was quite difficult, but I also had a lot of fun in university and stuff. So it was a great experience overall. Were
you playing sports at university as well, at the varsity level?
I didn't do anything at the varsity level, played more rec sports, and I was a sports coordinator at our residence, so I pretty well played whatever came along.
Yeah, right. And tell me about what it was like going from Happy Valley-Goose Bay into Fredericton. What was that experience? Just the physical differences between the communities? Oh, yeah, it was quite different. Just all the people and all the different stores and shops and stuff like that. It was, we were kind of used to that type of area since we did travel a reasonable amount as kids, but it was definitely a different atmosphere to live in compared to Goose Bay. And so you were down there it's a 4-year program, right? The electrical engineering program? Yep. So what I did, though, was I spread it across 5 years and just lightened the course load a little bit. And I stayed there for 6 years total, because I stayed an extra year and did a couple of business courses, and I worked part-time while I did it. So tell me about some of the things you were working at while you were studying to be an engineer. What were you doing? So a couple of the jobs that I had were a delivery driver. So I basically just delivered for a company that had a bunch of different like places that they would pick stuff up from. And besides that, I did a couple things in my field in the summer jobs. So I did that the delivery while I was doing school, and kind of helped without having to, something that you didn't have to think too hard at school, that it kind of like separated it a little bit. And then in the summer jobs, I had a few jobs in my field, and I did a couple in Fredericton, one in Alberta, and one home. Tell me about those jobs as an electrical engineering student. What were you into? So one, we did communications around New Brunswick. So I went with a guy who was doing like the cell phone towers and stuff. So I traveled around and we mapped out where the towers would reach and where we need to put new ones so we can increase the coverage. And we had to make sure that they were kind of like in a loop. So if one failed, the direction of the loop can go the other way, and we wouldn't lose any other coverage anywhere else. They had kind of like a fail safe.
And then in other jobs, I did work with different electronics, like automating different systems and this was all for the town in Alberta. So the different projects that they had for the municipality, I helped out with that. And I also had to lead a couple projects of my own, including stuff with PLCs and different things for all the different sections of the municipality.
So you would have got to see pretty interesting parts of New Brunswick if you were involved in putting up towers. I mean, because New Brunswick's it can be fairly remote and hard to get to there as well, eh?
Yeah, for sure. We traveled through a lot of dirt roads and got to a lot of different spots.
Yeah. It would be as remote in parts of New Brunswick, certainly, as it is in Labrador. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Out of the big cities, definitely.
Yeah. And tell me about the Alberta. Where did you work in there? Which city?
It was Camrose, Alberta, which is fairly close to Edmonton.
Okay, right on. And so you finished your engineering degree, electrical engineering degree, and did you work in that field at all, or are you dabbling in that field at all?
Yeah, so when I finished, I was looking for a job in Fredericton for a little while. Nothing really came up right away, and then when Muskrat Falls started here, I started a job over there. So I started working on the camps first, doing like deficiencies and stuff like that for the electrical side. And then once the camp project concluded, I ended up working on the main project a little bit as an assistant to one of the superintendents. So I ended up getting laid off there 1 year, and then I picked up a job with Raytheon, which was who controls the North Warning System. It used to be NASA. Mm-hmm. And so I worked there for 3 years. So I traveled all across the Arctic and did a bunch of jobs on all the different North Warning sites. So after that, that's when I had a bit of money saved up and started the gym project. So
I'd like to pull on the Raytheon string for a second. So you worked on the early warning system up there. What were you doing with them? If you can tell us.
Yeah, I was a radar technician, so I just worked on the radar.
Okay.
Yeah, kept it up.
Pretty complex system. Pretty complex system, TJ?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot involved. Did a lot of courses. Had to travel to different places to learn more about all the different radar systems. And I did corrective and preventative maintenance on it.
Yeah, and so they would have been in some remote spots as well.
Oh yeah, all over like on top of mountaintops all across the Arctic and the coast of Labrador.
So you'd have to go in by helicopter to service these things?
Most of the time, yeah. There are some runways around, but mostly helicopter.
Man, you must spend a lot of time in helicopters back in those days.
Yeah, definitely. I don't really care to ever go on one again at this point.
Forgive my ignorance, but is this still operational? Yeah?
It's still on the go now.
It's probably needed more now than ever.
Yeah, I would say so.
Oh, Canada just made a big commitment to NORAD yesterday. Mm-hmm. So they'll be kicking that work up again. But you're not in that space anymore, TJ.
No, I've been done since 2017. So it's been almost 5 years now.
Yeah. Well, this is a nice lead in to kind of, what made you make this decision? I know that this is something that really intrigues Jerry as well. And when you make that decision from going from probably a pretty good job at Raytheon to say, okay, I'm going to go out on my own. And you said you had some money saved up, but it's certainly a lot more to it than that. In that mental click to say, okay, I'm going out on my own. So tell us a little bit about that. When you came to that realization, where were you that in your mind, or where physically you might have been in the air? I don't know. Where were you where you said, I want to start my own business?
So it's always been a dream to start my own business. My parents are both entrepreneurs, and even back as far as high school when we did our career ed class, which learned a little bit about business and entrepreneurship and stuff, I did a project on opening a gym back then. So, I mean, that was back when I was in grade 10 or 11, which is a long time ago now. And it was always in the back of my mind. Even when I did university, I did a couple entrepreneur courses after I finished my electrical engineering, like I said, and that was always the thought then as well. And that's when I started my business plan. So all throughout my jobs, I knew I needed a bit of a nest egg in order to open a business, especially one as big as a gym. And yeah, as I was slowly developing my business plan, and when I started working at Raytheon and I started having a bit more savings, I really started putting it into full gear at that point. So the biggest thing about working at Raytheon, I really enjoyed the job, but there's a lot of travel and a lot of remote places, no cell phone service, all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of hard living I enjoy living more of a social life in that, but being gone for weeks at a time without any access to home at all, it was a little tough. So I knew in the long term, that's what I wanted to do. And so I stuck it out for a few years and built up the business plan and the savings. And then when the time was right, I just decided to, make the jump. So I guess it was more.
Let me jump in there, TJ. You say when the time was right. What made the time right?
I guess when everything came together. I know I'm partners with my parents on this, so it took them a little bit of convincing, but with their entrepreneurial background and their skill sets coupled with my skill sets, we could make almost a perfect team, really. And once the business plan was done and we had enough money for the down payment, then we were two of the different lending firms and the business startup firms. It just all came together.
What year was this again?
So we opened in March 2018. So we started building in the summer of 2017.
Well, you said that mom and dad are entrepreneurial. What do they do?
So Dad started his own business as doing ceramic tile back in '97, and at that time, Mom was still working a job, but she joined his company shortly after, and she does his books, and also used to help in the labor portion as well. Now, this day and age, we have a few more employees, and she still does the books for both companies now, and she also does a little more at the gym.
Right. So you had a business plan. You started to form a business plan as early as you talked about high school, and then into university. You were always forming that business plan. Was that in those early days? Was the vision a gym, or was it something different?
It was always a gym. It was a bit more ambitious back in the high school days because I had less understanding of the whole thing. But definitely the gym that I have now was really good, and I always get good reviews on it, and it's definitely something that my vision came true kind of thing. So
it must have been an amazing feeling to, a scary feeling, obviously, to say, okay, I'm leaving Raytheon. I'm leaving the security of that. I'm leaving the security of being an electrical engineer at Raytheon, which is a big thing. I mean, and I'm going to start my own thing. It would be a little bit scary, but also exciting. So do you remember those first few months and how you felt and where your mind was?
Yeah. So I'm definitely an optimistic person. So the scariness was there, but it wasn't the most prominent feeling. I was just really excited to see how it would work. And we jumped out of the gate pretty strong. With there not being any other gym in town at the time, just a base gym like we were talking about, which limited memberships to civilians. So there was a big market there for us. And right out of the gate, we started strong, and the excitement just grew, really. And I mean, we made mistakes along the way and learned a lot right away, but I think we're in a really good spot right now, and everything's been developing ever since. Yeah.
Tell me about opening the doors that day. Tell me about when you opened the doors the first time, how you felt.
So we opened the doors in the morning, and it was pretty exciting to go in there after a few long days getting everything set up. But we had our grand opening in the evening, and that was pretty exciting. Our entire store and gym was packed full of people, and people signing up for memberships. And me just trying to keep up on the typing in everybody's profile. It was pretty hectic, but I had a lot of support with me, and I had a lot of people giving tours, and everybody seemed to be pretty excited when they came in and loved the place right away.
TJ, tell me a little bit about the gym. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the gym itself. What do you offer there? How do you differentiate yourself from everybody else?
So we try to, our vision at first was have a little bit for everyone. Since we didn't really have a gym here, we wanted to cater to the majority of the population. And since the YMCA opened across the road from us that the town built, we kind of shifted gears a little bit. we're a little bit away from the totality of it all, and more focused a little bit on the weight training side and the powerlifting side, and a bit more of the specialization of everything. So we have a lot of cardio machines still. We have a lot of free weights, and we have a lot of barbell machines. So we have personal training and the powerlifting group that I run, and that's been steadily growing ever since we opened. So we really try to focus on, just like keeping everybody engaged and involved and having as many programs as we can. We have a training app that I also offer as a tier level of membership. So it gives everybody a thing to follow when they come in here. So we try to help out as much as we can and offer good membership structures and try to provide a community for everybody that comes through the door.
TJ, are they coming to the gym to work with you specifically? Are you a big draw to the gym as well?
There are options to work with me for sure. Like the powerlifting group I run myself, and a lot of the training I do myself. But we also have other trainers and other specializations through those trainers. We have someone that comes in and does classes with some youth. We have a few female trainers that do different types of training classes, and myself who runs like the powerlifting and more of the what we have is a platinum membership. So we have a bunch of different membership plans that I've been creating throughout the last so many years, and anybody who wants to sign up for that can kind of get one of my plans, and I help them choose those. So that one's a bit easier to manage, and then the powerlifting and the one-on-one's a little more time consuming. So I'm a little more limited to as many people as I could see face to face for those, but we definitely have we're growing all the time. So we're definitely able to offer more to more people as we go.
It sounds like an amazing offering for sure. Tell me a little bit about your powerlifting journey. Are you competing, or have you competed, or tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I started back in 2015, I believe, and it was always something I was interested in. Like I said, I always seemed to be a bit stronger than average. So I trained for my very first meet, and it was in St. John's in 2015, like I was saying. And I went in with the expectation of just kind of like learning how it all worked and see what I could do, see if I could hit some personal records in there. And I ended up winning the entire meet across all weight classes for the first time. So kind of another signifier that I was excelling at the sport. So then I tried to move up through the different levels of competition. So there's provincials, regionals, which is like Eastern Canadians for us, and then nationals. And then the highest level you can go is worlds. So my first regionals was in 2017, and I did fairly well there. I came second, and then I moved on to nationals. So then I did the nationals 4 years in a row now. So I went from 12th to 5th to 2nd, and then to 2nd again this year.
Wow.
But there was a little disappointing finish this year because I could have came first, but I just missed my last lift on technicality, which would have won it for me. But
really,
there's always next year.
Is there the same person beating you? So do you have a nemesis that you're trying to beat?
No, it was two different people. So actually, from then on, the last 2 years, I also went to the Worlds. So basically, the top total in Canada and the weight class get to go there. But the first time I went to go was because the guy that beat me was on a few years off, so he didn't go, so I got to go. And then this year I got to go because of COVID canceling nationals. It took the highest total of the last 2 years, which was mine, so I got to go 2 years in a row now. And the guy who beat me at nationals this year, I ended up beating him at Worlds. So we're 1-1 here now.
Wow. So I guess it's not going to mean a whole lot to me, but it's going to mean a whole heck of a lot to people that are listening to this podcast. What kind of weight are we talking about lifting here?
So a powerlifting meet is a squat, the bench press, and the deadlift, and you get 3 attempts at each. Usually you start out with something that you know you can do, and you work all the way up to like a PR, generally anyway.
Right.
And for me, I usually my last squat was 262.5 kilos or 585 pounds. And bench press, my best in competition is 200 kilos or 440 pounds. And deadlift, my best in competition is 325 kilos or 715 pounds, I believe.
Oh my God.
You know what, Alan? When we get to Labrador, not if, when we should do a podcast with TJ, with me and you doing those routines. And I think it'll be a bit funny to see what we could possibly lift. I'd be laughing.
Well, Jerry,
I'd be laughing 50 pounds. Go ahead.
I'm not certain we could lift that on either end of it, you and I, together. Wow, that's incredible. Tell me about like competing at a national and world level. What does that feel like? When you're at that competition, you must be really amazed. Like there must be some very, very impressive people, including yourself, in the room.
Yeah, there definitely is, especially at this recent Worlds that I just came back from. Last year's there wasn't as many people because of the first competition back from COVID, but this year everybody came out and there was a lot of impressive people. It was really fun to watch, and the production value is pretty high, and the sport is definitely growing. It was on the Olympic website for streaming and on Eurosport in Europe on the TV channel, and it's like the entire production and stuff is really cool to see, and the people there are amazing for sure.
That was in South Africa, right?
Yeah. We were in Sun City, which is a resort in South Africa near Johannesburg.
So how long were you there?
The entire trip was about 2 weeks, but it takes 2.5 days to travel each way. So we were there for about a week.
Yeah.
In total.
Happy Valley-Goose Bay to South Africa to lift. That's incredible. What an incredible journey.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
TJ, I got a question. Sorry, Alan. When you say you get to the Worlds, who do you represent? Do you represent yourself, or are you representing the country, the province? Just give us a little thumbnail sketches. I have no idea about this.
Yeah, so we did definitely represent Canada. So we have our Team Canada uniforms that we wear out on there. But there's definitely a sense of representing your province and yourself too, because you always take it home with you.
Yep.
And but Canada is what we're labeled under.
When you go to, we'll stay with South Africa here for a second. When you went to South Africa, were you alone? Did you travel with anybody who went with you?
My wife came with me. So we both travel. She helps me out along the way. She powerlifts herself, but when I'm at these competitions, and she's my handler is what they call it in powerlifting. So she helps out with everything from my equipment to my food and music. And at this one itself, they have coaches that put in your attempts, like what you're going to lift next. But whenever I'm at a meet like nationals, that's also what she does. We kind of work together to see what number I should do next, and then she'll be the one to put it into the scorekeeper and stuff.
I want to pick up on something there. You said she handles your food. I'm assuming that you have a pretty regimented diet. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so basically you got to make weight. So my weight class is 93 kilograms. I usually walk around anywhere between 93 to 97, depending on the time of year. Like towards Christmas, I'm a little heavier, and towards the summer, I'm a little lighter. So you definitely have to diet yourself to make weight. Plus, for when you're gaining strength and size and stuff, you definitely need to hit the correct number of protein, and you can't undereat, or else it won't be as efficient as possible, I guess.
Right.
So, but for on meet day, handling my food, I have like a wide selection of food there to keep me energized throughout the day, and then she'll just help me out with just anything that I need to keep my mind on the lifting. So whatever is there that I need, she would definitely help.
Wow. It's an equation, isn't it? Your whole body is an equation at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
Very, very interesting.
Alan, I love talking to people like TJ, and we've talked to several fitness experts. It reminds me of how much work I have to do on myself. So talk a little bit about that, TJ, in terms of, how do you feel you're helping a community get fit? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it means a lot. It's something that I strive for, just to help as many people as we can with the gym, whether that's getting them exercise more, learning to eat better, or just improving their way, is just improving yourself as much as possible. It's kind of like was the mantra behind our name, which was Gears Gains, that we came up with, just because gains in the fitness community is basically an improvement somewhere. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but just improve somewhere, whether you're doing one more rep than you did last week, or you've learned more about nutrition. Like any type of thing that we could teach you is what what we strive for.
Well, TJ, that's a great conduit into the next part of our conversation here, which is what's on the horizon for you? Where do you see yourself being in 2, 5, 10 years from now?
So I definitely want to keep with the powerlifting myself. I want to go to Worlds and I want to get better. I came 6th at my first Worlds and 12th at my second Worlds as the competition increased due to the COVID. And I really just want to improve on that. That's my main goal, is to get better and keep being able to keep doing it for the next few years would be awesome. And on the business side of things, we have plans to expand a little in the coming months. So we're hoping to grow the gym, grow the membership base, help more people, and add more equipment, all that kind of thing to help us do so.
That's fantastic. And TJ, tell me what the community of Happy Valley-Goose Bay means to you in terms of growing a business there.
Yeah, it means a lot. This is where I grew up and where I'm going to continue to live for the rest of my life, likely. So being able to help the people around and grow in the community has been a great feeling.
That's fantastic. TJ, we always ask our guests, and you've had a wonderful journey thus far. We always ask our guests to leave the podcast with a piece of advice. What might that piece of advice be from a guy like you?
I think it's just to work on yourself and try to improve all the time. Just like our motto at the gym is just try to take it one step at a time and try to improve on yourself, like on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis.
Jerry Carew, your thoughts?
Well, TJ, it's interesting. My wife used to be an aerobics instructor, and that kept me very, very fit, having her as a spouse. I can tell you that I, unfortunately, have neglected my health over the last, primarily in COVID, and I've only recently started to drink more water. I realized sitting here, this is a basement studio in my house, I don't wander very far anymore, from upstairs to downstairs. And I'm sure this is a story you're hearing from a lot of people with COVID, working from home. I drank way too much coffee. I think what you're doing for our community is incredibly important. Newfoundland needs more healthy people. And I just commend you for taking that leap into the entrepreneurial world and creating Gears Gains. I love your website, by the way. I think that's really well done. Yeah,
it's really nice.
Well, another wonderful edition of Gale Force Wins. TJ, it's been an absolute pleasure to be in conversation with you. And what a wonderful journey you've had right there in Happy Valley-Goose Bay, starting in the minor hockey system and being on those airplanes, going to competitions, and then continuing that journey on aircraft, and most recently being in South Africa, representing not only Newfoundland and Labrador, but our country. And the numbers that you just described to us that you're lifting are... well, they're not comprehensible for Jerry and I, because I don't even know that even registers with me. Sounds like a lot. And I bet there's people that are listening, shaking their heads saying, I can't believe that this guy is lifting that. But that's fantastic. But most importantly, TJ, your desire to continue to support your community, to grow your business in your community, understanding what the community has meant to you to date, and now you wanting to give back to your community. It's all inspirational stuff, TJ. We certainly wish you the absolute best of luck in your own personal competition and also with the growth of your business. And I too like to leave the podcast with my own piece of advice. And quite frankly, the world needs more TJ. Keep up the good work, mate. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Gale Force Wins. That's Gale Force Wins, WINS.com.